We just heard Dr. Jayanti Kumaresh, a leading Vainika, a leading Veena player in contemporary Carnatic music. We have used this clip with her kind permission. What she played was a Raga Alapana in the Raga Kiravani. Now, as we have seen in the earlier sessions, the music is melodic. The music is created by arranging notes one after another consecutively. But as was evident, it is not just a succession of notes, it's much more than that. There was considerable variation. There was variation in tempo, there was variation in loudness and softness, there was long notes were contrasted with notes clustered together, there were pauses, there were gaps, there were shakes and oscillations and trills and curves. All of this is a very deliberate and stylized way of arranging notes, of treating notes, which marks it out as Carnatic music. Now, what is it about the 7 notes that we hear so much about? Let's take a hard look at what is called this musical material. It is common knowledge that we have 7 notes or 7 swaras. What is a note? A note is a frequency. And frequency, as you would all know, is the basic fundamental property of sound. But not all frequencies are notes, because the perceptual element is also very much a part of the concept of swara. So, this is definitely a swara, a note, and it has a certain frequency. But if the frequency were just a little higher than this, very infinitesimally higher than this, it's quite likely that most human ears won't be able to discern that it is a different frequency, and it won't be given the status of another note. So a note, a swara, a musical note, is a frequency, but it has to be perceived as such. So it is actually a psychoacoustical property of sound. Now, as I said, we have 7 notes, saptaswara. Sarigama pada ni. These are the 7 notes, we can say. And this particular set of notes is called the major scale in Western music, and it is also a very important scale in Hindustani music as well as in Carnatic music. In fact, in Carnatic music, this scale is associated with a major raga called Shankarabharanam. Now, so taking this as a reference point, since this is universally used, very widely used, very well known in many musical systems, let us see what Dr. Jayanti played. Now, what she played, the notes that she used are also Sarigama Padhani. What she played was Sa Sarigama Padhani, Sarigama Padhani, which is not the same as the major scale. The major scale goes as Sarigama Padhani. That's what Dr. Jayanti played was Sarigama Padhani. The difference may be a bit subtle for novices to make out, but the ga and the dha, the third and the sixth notes, they are different in these two scales. Sarigama, this is a major scale, and what Dr. Jayanti played, the Keeravani scale, is Sarigama, Sarigama, Sarigama. So the ga is different. So anybody at all with basic training in music will know that though we speak of 7 notes, 7 swaras, there are 5 other notes which are spoken of as a variance of 5 of these 7 notes. So we say Sarigama Padhani, of these Sa and Pa have no variants, and therefore they are called Achala swaras. They don't move, Achala swaras. Whereas Riga Madhani, each has one variant, and this variant swara is called Vikrita swara. So we have 7 swaras and 5 variant swaras, taking the total to 12, what is called Swarasthana. We don't say there are 12 swaras. We say there are 12 Swarasthanas. There is 12 positions which can be occupied by a swara. There are very good reasons for not calling them 12 swaras. We will look at it very shortly. Now, in order to demonstrate these 12 Swarasthanas, let me use a keyboard. Now, I would also like to emphasize that a keyboard is far from an ideal instrument for Carnatic music. Why I am using it is only because what I have to demonstrate is just the Swarasthanas, the notes that are there, and also because it is very easily available. It should be accessible to most people. We even have online versions of the keyboard. So I will demonstrate a bit these 12 Swarasthanas on the keyboard. So here I have a very small keyboard with 3 octaves. The advantage of the keyboard is also that you can actually see there is a visual counterpart to these swaras. So as I punch the key, each key corresponds to one swara. So in many ways this is ideal for demonstrating the number of swaras or tones or notes. Now suppose we start with this, and let us play the major scale. This is the major scale. Now let us see the other notes that are there in this range. So the first is this is the re, this is the second swara, but actually there is a variant of this which is the vikrita is so for convenience all these notes have technical terms in Carnatic music, but for convenience sake we also refer to them as Re1 and Re2. This is Re1, this is Re2. Now the Ga in the major scale is actually G2, and there is a variant of this. This is G1 and this is G2. So, so we have two Ma's here, Ma1 and Ma2, and so on. For Pa, as I said, is invariant. It's not a variant. Does not have a variant. Sa and Pa are Achala swaras. They have no variants. So Sa, Pa also has no variant. Again, Dha, there are two. This is Dha and this is a Dha. Again, this is a Ni and this is a Ni. We have a Sa. The 7 notes and there are 5 variants. We have Sa and Pa, which are Achala swaras. They don't move. We have Re1, Re2, Ga1, Ga2, Ma1, Ma2. Then Pa, of course, which has no variant. Dha1, Dha2, Ni1, Ni2. And this is how we have the schema of 12 note positions, swarasthanas. So if we have 12 swaras, therefore 12 swarasthanas or 12 tones as it is called. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this is the 13th, which is actually the same. So till this is the end of the scale, and we have 12 swarasthanas within it. And I don't need to tell you that it doesn't sound musical at all if you play all these 12 in this way. We may use this kind of music in some situations in a movie or something when we want to suggest that something particularly unpleasant is going to happen. But otherwise it's really not musical to use these 12 notes like this. Now the veena is a traditional musical instrument in Carnatic music, and I'm going to now show you a clip from a demonstration on the veena by Dr. R.S. Jayalakshmi. She gave us this demonstration for this course, and here she is taking what may be called the basic scale in Carnatic music. It is basic in the sense that beginners are introduced to this scale. There's a first scale that you learn in Carnatic music is this scale, and it's called Maya Malava Gaula. The veena, unlike the keyboard, is quite the contrast of keyboard. The veena is a quintessential Carnatic music instrument. It is an ancient Indian instrument, and it is eminently suited to demonstrate, to listen to Carnatic music on. So let us watch this clip where Dr. Jayalakshmi demonstrates how the scale of Maya Malava Gaula sounds and how the 12 12 notes, 12 swarasthanas can be found on the Veena fretboard. Interestingly, she also plays another scale, and between these two scales, Maya Madhavagowda and Hemavati, all the 12 swarasthanas are covered. So let's watch it now.
Sa, Ri, Ga, Ma, Pa, Da, Ni, Sa, Ni, Da, Pa, Ma, Ga, Ri, Sa. இது வந்து சரளி வரிசை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கு முதல்ல இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன் ஆஃப் த 7 notes டு த ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ். அப்போ 7 நோட்ஸ்னு சொல்லிட்டு 8 வாசிக்கிறேன், இல்லைன்னா ஒரு கம்ப்ளீஷனுக்கு ஒரு 1 octave ஸ்டார்ட்ஸ் ஃப்ரம் சா டு சா, ஒரு ஃப்ளோரிங் அண்ட் சீலிங் மாதிரி. அதுதான் அந்த ஒரு ஆக்டேவை கவர் பண்ணுறது. ஸோ அந்த 7 நோட்ஸை பிளெயினாக வாசிக்கிறச்சே ஸ்கேல். இதில் நோட் வெரைட்டிஸ் என்னென்ன வருது அதெல்லாம் அப்புறம் சொல்கிறேன். இப்போ இந்த மாயமலகுலன்னு எடுத்துக்கிறச்சு எல்லா 12 செமிடோன்ஸும் வராது, 7 நோட்ஸ் தான் வரும். அதுதான் சஜ்ஜம், சுத்த ரிஷபம், அந்தரகாந்தாரம், சுத்த மத்தியமம், பஞ்சமம், சுத்த தைவதம், காக்கலி நிஷாதம், சஜ்ஜம். இப்போ இதை தவிர்த்து நான் சொன்ன இந்த இன்னொரு அதாவது ரீயோட 2 வெரைட்டிஸில் this is the second variety of Re. This is the first variety of Ga. This is the second variety of Ma. There is no variety for Sa and Pa. This is the second variety of Daivatam. This is the first variety of Nishadam. இப்போ அதாவது என்ன சொல்கிறது, இந்த மாயமாளகுலை ஸ்கேலில் இருக்கிற எல்லா நோட்ஸையுமே அதோட அடுத்த வெரைட்டியாக மாற்றினா ஒரு ராகம் வரும். This ragam is called Hemavati. இப்போ இது மொட்டையாக ஸ்கேலாக வாசிக்கிறோம்.
Like the keyboard, the Veena also has the advantage of offering a visual of the note that is being played. Each fret on the fretboard of the Veena corresponds to a swara, a note. Now, we have seen both on the keyboard and on the Veena how there are 12 swaras. Though we speak of 7, there are actually 7 plus 5, and we say that there are 12 swarasthanas. Now, the question would be, why don't we say that there are 12 swaras and be done with it? Why must we say that there are 7 swaras and 5 variants? Now, the straightforward answer to this is, the obvious answer to this would be that that is how it is in practice. And this cannot be emphasized enough, that what we are doing here, talking about music, theorizing about music, this entirely follows practice. Practice very rarely draws from theory, and theory is only an attempt to explain the practice of music. And in practice, musicians speak of 7 swaras and their variants, and they do so for very good reasons, because combining 7 swaras in various ways very often yields meaningful music. Music making is very possible when we have 7 swaras at our disposal, whereas a combination of these 12 swarasthanas, as we just saw, results in cacophony. It's very difficult to create meaningful music out of 12 swarasthanas using all of them together. Now, what music practice does is that Of these 12 Swarasthanas, 7 of them are made primary and 5 of them are made their variants, suggesting that the both variants of a single note may not normally be used. That is the suggestion here. Music is made with one of the variants of Re, Ga, Ma, Dha, Ni. And we must acknowledge a general principle here of music making, that notes that are very close to each other, such as this, they don't, for instance this, these are very close swaras. The positions on the keyboard, as you can see, are very close. Da 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 da. This kind of combination of notes that are very close to each other, it does not make pleasant music. And having said this, again, I must also point out that we do use notes that are very close to each other all the time, but too much of it is, well, it will be too much. And as a matter of fact, as we will see later, there are ragas in Indian classical, in Carnatic music especially, that use both varieties of the same note. For instance, da 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 da. Now this is actually using two variants of the same note, ga ga ma ga ga sa. This kind of ragas, we have a significant number of such ragas, and some of you out there who have some exposure to Carnatic music would no doubt have heard of Vivadi ragas, and this is what a Vivadi raga is. But when more such dual notes come into the picture, it becomes very challenging to create meaningful melodies out of them.